Hello BookTube, my name is Daniel. Welcome back to my channel Guilty Feet. D, and I've got no rhythm. Today I'm going to do my first tag in absolutely ages, and just to prove how behind I am and how long since I've done a tag, I'm going to do the D tag from Jim's book reading and stuff, which Jim tagged me in back when he was still in the D's, which I think is, probably 3 or 4 or 5 months ago, and I never did it because I'm a terrible human being. I haven't done any tags like throughout the whole summer or anything, so I've got the prompts here in front of me, and some of them I have answers for and some of them probably not very good answers, but we'll try and see how far we get. So first of all, thank you Jim for tagging me. I watched a whole bunch of these. He tagged me D because I'm Daniel, so here we go. The first one is D is for Dahl. What is your favourite book by Roald Dahl, the infamous Jew-hating scumbag? I started, I think the first book we ever read in school was James the Giant Peach, which I love, big fan of James Henry Trotter. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, obviously. I also really like Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator, and then The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, which was one of the stories in the collection, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar and other stories, but the Henry Sugar story, as well as The Fingersmith. A bunch of Dahl's made a big impression on me. Some of their short stories, but I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but fuck Roald Dahl. D is for Doctor Who. So I can either do what is my favourite book about time travel. I don't know, couldn't think of one. Can't think of a book that involved time travel specifically. Or who is my favourite Doctor Who? Well, Doctor Who is kind of like James Bond, isn't it? Your favourite is the one. With James Bond, your favourite is the first one you saw in the cinema. With Doctor Who, probably your favourite is the first one you remember watching on TV. I started watching Doctor Who, I think, at the end of the Pertwee era and the start of Tom Baker, and so I probably, out of those, picked Tom Baker because the scariest thing I ever saw was the John Pertwee one, where the Planet of the Spiders, and the spiders attach themselves to the back of people's heads and control their brains. And there's one scene at the end of the scene is the guy's talking, and then the camera pans around, and you think he's one of the good guys. The camera pans around, and you see that there's actually a spider in the back of it. Creepy as all get out. When the cliche of watching Doctor Who from behind the sofa, I feel like I actually watched Doctor Who from behind the sofa and gave me nightmares and put me off anything like that. Which takes me to the next prompt, which is D is for dark. What is the darkest book you've read? I don't read dark things, and don't read if dark means, I don't know if dark means scary or sort of dark. Like I read a lot of noir, which I guess noir fiction and crime fiction from the 20s and 30s onwards into present day noir. So starting with I sort of really start with Hammett and then Chandler, but James M. Cain stuff. So that's noirish. Is that dark? Also, I just picked something off the shelf which was kind of dark. This is Scarlett Thomas's The End of Mr. Y, which I don't think I bought. For some reason in my head, I think this just turned up in my parents' house. And it's a fairly modern novel, turned up in my parents' house. I think my dad might have bought it. If you read it, why is it dark? Look at these end papers. They are, well, that's just dusty, but they're black. There's a perfectly normal paperback. Is that dark? Anyway, that's the best I got for you. Next up, D is for Dickens. How many Dickens novels have you read? There were 15. I've read 5, which is not great. I started Bleak House and never finished it, so that's still on my TBR. I'm going to get to it. But the 5 I've got are here. So there's Great Expectations, Hard Times, and David Copperfield. And then down here, you can't see, this is Dombey and Son and The Old Curiosity Shop. And there's lots more Dickens for me to get to, and I will, I believe, I hope at some point in the next however many years. Okay, this is a nice one. I like this one. D is for dictionary. In these internet years, do you still use physical paper dictionaries? Yes, very much. And not I mean, one of the reasons why I still keep physical reference books is Shabbat. I don't use the computer on Shabbat or my phone, and so and Shabbat is also the time where we come together and sit down at the table and have conversations where inevitably questions arise that require someone to go to the dictionaries. So I have a range. I've bought some of the dictionaries that I use on a regular basis, and I'm not saying I'm referring to these every single day, but at least once a week one of these is taken down and referenced. So let's take you through what I've got. I've got a nice selection here, and I'll try and show them off. I have this shorter Oxford English Dictionary in 2 volumes, and this was actually a bar mitzvah present. So I got this in 1982. That was one bar mitzvah I have. That's volume 2. Let's see if it has an inscription in it. Yes. To Daniel, on the occasion of your bar mitzvah, with our sincere wishes for a healthy, happy and successful future, we hope this dictionary will be in constant use. Reminder, no man is wise without books. And that was from Shirley Seymour, Rosina and Jeremy. Jeremy is one of my oldest friends, and I'm in touch with them usually every 3 or 4 times a year. He lives in, and I see him when I'm in London, and he sees me when he comes to Israel. So that was an excellent present. And 1 second. That was an excellent present, which was 40 years, almost 40 years ago, and still in use. So thank you to Shirley Seymour, Rosina, and Jeremy. What else have I got? Other dictionaries. This was my school French dictionary. It cost £4.95 back then. This is the standard Harrop's concise French English and English French, so that's useful. This is one I bought as a teenager when if you keep a diary or you think you're going to be a poet. This is something I asked my mum to get me, and she did. This is Walker's Rhyming Dictionary of the English Language, and if you I've got this in April 1986, so I was 17. Probably too old to be still thinking he's a poet. If you don't know what a rhyming dictionary, it is a dictionary, so it has definitions of words, but all the words are in reverse alphabetical order, so that all the words that end in AA or BA at the beginning, so theoretically rhyming words are grouped together. Of course, we know that off, OFF, and cough, COUGH, rhyme but wouldn't be found next to each other in this, but it's a great aid for rhymes and things, and so it's a sort of fairly normal dictionary. As a dictionary, it's not much use. Sorry, I keep getting interrupted by my daughter wandering out, laughing at me sitting in front of the computer holding up books. So as a dictionary, it's not much use for looking up words, whereas the shorter Oxford English Dictionary is my go-to for etymologies. That's history of words and the first appearance of words in language. That's a great source for that. I have other dictionaries I'll get to in a second, which are, if you just want to know what a word means. This is not great for either of those. It doesn't have etymologies, and I wouldn't turn to this little word, but it's great for finding words that end with a similar combination of letters and some rhymes. So Walker's Rhyming Dictionary in the English Language, I still use this. I guess if I'm just looking up a word, this might be the first one that I pull down, and this is the Collins Coburn English Dictionary, which in my first job when I came to Israel, I was working for a publisher of English language textbooks for schools in Israel and Greece and Spain, and so I got this to sit at my desk. This was pre-internet, so we would sit there and we would edit and look up, make sure, check out spellings if we were unsure, and then I stole this when I left there. So it's falling apart, but it's quite a good dictionary, and this is good on pronunciations. So I learned a little bit about the phonetic alphabet, and if you want to know how words are pronounced, this has and I don't think they're shorter titles. I'm not going to take it up and look now, but this is great for exactly how to pronounce words, and it's good, but sadly this is actually falling apart, and so I'm less likely to take it down because it feels like the back cover's about to come off. A nice one that I have that I got once from a book club is this Dorling Kindersley visual dictionary. If you've never seen a visual dictionary, it's a nice thing to have in the house, certainly when the kids are smaller, because it has pictures of things where everything is labelled, so you actually find out what the names of the parts are. So let me find a good example. So there's a volcano, a page about volcanoes, and every single part of the volcano is labelled, so you know what the difference between a fissure volcano and a dome volcano and a caldera volcano, and what the different parts of the volcano are. And then you've also got things like ropes and knots, and pictures of each of the knots and what they are, so you can see a double carrack bend versus a lighterman's hitch, and then you've got stuff, really useful stuff, like Baroque and neoclassical architecture, and telling you what the different parts of the column are, what the different column styles are. This is all like super useful. stringed instruments, what the different parts of. I love this, and this is, I don't think I turn to this to look up things and find what is the proper word for the bit that comes below the neck of a violin, but it's something I occasionally just take down and flick through because, first of all, words are delicious, and second of all, you might have heard these words, but you don't know, until you see them in context, you don't know what they are. I imagine if anyone who writes, properly writes, and finds themselves writing about things they may not be perfectly familiar with, this would be a really useful tool. I love having this. It's by Dorling Kindersley. It's a lovely big book, and it's a visual dictionary, so I look at that. Another important one in this house, I have 5 volumes. I've just got 2 volumes here. This is the complete Hebrew-English dictionary by Reuven Alkalay. This is the Hebrew-English part, and I've also got 3 volumes of the English to Hebrew, and this is a great dictionary. This is a dictionary for people who speak different languages, but this is full of Hebrew idioms and then English idioms and how they be translated into Hebrew in the English to Hebrew section. So this is the ultimate dictionary for us as immigrants coming here and really trying to find the bon mot in another language. I don't write in Hebrew or tend to have terribly complex conversation in Hebrew, but occasionally things will come up, phrases or does that idiom translate into Hebrew or from Hebrew into English or from English into Hebrew? And the Alkalay is a great and useful and often referred to. This is not the kind of thing so this is probably the one that gets used most, not on Shabbat, because it's much harder for me to find the answers on my phone or on the internet. I can type in Hebrew on my phone, but it takes me an hour and a half. So this is a great lookup, and I say 5 volumes of that. And then the last dictionary that I want to show you is one of my most prized possessions, and this is it. I'm sure you all have a friend like this, and I have 2 or 3 friends like this, and you have to be very careful around these friends, because if you ever say anything that you're just interested in that, or you'd really like to get that somehow before you've done anything they turn up with it as a gift for you, to the extent that you just need to learn not to covet or want things in front of them, or just keep it yourself, because it's embarrassing when someone brings you something and you haven't. Anyway, this was a classic example. It was a Shabbat meal. We were talking about dictionaries and what I liked and which ones I used. And I said, the one I've got this 2-volume shorter Oxford English dictionary. I said, what I'd really love is one of those giant Webster's American dictionaries. The really big one with the half moons over each letter, so you can move through the alphabet. But they're just, I always bought books when I travelled, but buying one of these things and bringing it back from the States, A, it's an expensive thing to buy, and B, it would take up so much space. Anyway, I never got around to doing it. I didn't. And I had this conversation over a meal with somebody, and about a week and a half later, he was a guy who travelled up. A week and a half later, there's a knock on the door, and he turned up with this monster. This is the Webster's Encyclopedic Unabridged Dictionary of the English Language. This is the new deluxe edition. I think he bought this second-hand somewhere. I found it. We look at the size of that. It's a monster, and I love it. And I often refer to this because, as well as everything else, as well as it being an American English dictionary rather than the shorter Oxford, which is English, British English, it's a bloody good dictionary as well, and it's very easy, and it's got pictures, and it's very, I can't see anything without my glasses on, but you can see there's pictures up there, and the I think the definitions are really well done. I think it usually gives examples if I'm not much mistaken, and it's just a terrific piece of work and a really good one. And if you're ever having a fight over a word at Shabbat table, this is a great one to pull out and say. And this is inscribed, "Dear Sevitz, hope you can find room for just one more." That was the inscription that he put on it. Very, very kind. Thank you, David and Tamar, who turned up with this completely unexpected and a real treasure for me. So the question was, do I still use paper dictionaries? The answer is, as you can see, undoubtedly yes. They are prized parts of my library and in use, regular use. I won't say constant use, but regular use. Okay, next up. D is for dagger and detective. What was the last detective novel you read? Well, so I read a lot of sort of crime, noir, spy, and detective fiction. So I had a look at Goodreads, and what the last actual detective fiction I read, and was probably that. I'm trying to look. Where is it? It's there. Well, it was the Harry Bosch. No, Cooper. No. Who's it by? Whatever it was the first 3 Harry Bosch novels. Connolly. Where is he? So there's Coburn, Grace. Here. Can you see that? That one, next to the Hunger Games. That one. The first 3 Harry Bosch novels. He's a detective. Before that, I read the first Poirot by Agatha Christie, and I've got number 2 waiting to go. So yeah. D is for Dostoevsky. What is your favourite Dostoevsky novel? I think I've only read 2 Dostoevsky novels. Here. Yeah, this was one I read years ago. This is so falling apart. I think it's my favourite. It would be Crime and Punishment. It was the first one I read. After this, I read The Brothers Karamazov, and then I've got The Gambler, which I don't know if there's a novel, The Gambler, and Bobok, A Nasty Story. I think there's 3 short novellas. So I didn't get on with Karamazov. It sort of went over my head. But I do remember reading this. I read this when I was 18 years old. I think I was in Israel. I was living in Jerusalem with a bunch of people, and I picked this up very, very cheap in a second-hand store in Israel. It's falling apart. This is an old Signet paperback. These were made to sort of self-destruct and fall apart. And this really has. I don't think this would stand another reading. Steve Donahue is always throwing things like this out and buying other copies. I keep it for sentimental value. I think this must have cost me 50 cents or something at a second-hand store, because I decided I wanted to read Dostoevsky, and I read it, and the trauma that Raskolnikov goes through. Okay, trauma, he's a murderer, but spoiler. But the psychological trauma that he goes through following his commission of a murder, it was just, I'd never read anything inside a person's mind that way before. So I don't have much to choose from. Didn't get on with Karamazov. Really liked Crime and Punishment. Haven't read any more Dostoevsky. Probably should. Okay, last question. D is for drawing. Who is your favourite visual artist? So my first thought often with these things goes to comic books. We talk about Frank Miller a lot as a writer, and how he changed the comic book world. He's become a bit of a strange character later in life, and a little sort of right wing, sort of post 300 and stuff since then. But we talk about The Dark Knight Returns, which is much discussed, where he was the writer rather than the artist. Klaus Janson, I think, was the artist there. But Sin City is his masterwork, which he wrote and drew in black and white originally in Dark Horse Comics, and then collected this is the first of, I think, 7 volumes. I've got most of them, but this is all black and white art, and it is sorry, excuse me, boobs. Let's see if we can find less. This is it's about black, and the white is the stuff that's not there, and just absolutely beautiful stuff on the cover there. There's Marv in all his glory, in his giant raincoat and squared off shoulders, and I can go back. I read comics because I like the stories and the idea of stories being told with pictures, but his artwork here is beyond spectacular. So I picked up Frank Miller. Another one, again, I'm not a biggest follower of Alex Ross, but his work specifically on Marvels is just astonishing. Let's find a really good page here, which is it's all absolutely beautiful. There's the Silver Surfer coming in to town for the first time. We've got the Fantastic Four, just look spectacular. Galactus. I'm not showing you any of the good parts, but it's just beautifully written, sort of painterly, but also naturalistic, and I just love everything about this. There's Captain America parachuting, and that would be the original Human Torch, I'm guessing, not the Human Torch of the Fantastic Four. Or is it? I don't know. That's sort of Second World War. What else have we got? Come on. It's just good. Anyway, Alex Ross, as I say, I haven't chased him down as an artist, but I think Marvel's a beautiful work. Another one, huge impact on me. We know about Alan Moore, the writer, but Brian Bolland's work on The Killing Joke, amongst anything else, is just spectacular. I don't want to bend the page. This is actually a first print of The Killing Joke, and it's just gorgeous. Everything is done panel by panel, either 2 by 3 or 3 by 3, and it's just outstanding visuals. In my opinion, definitive Joker, one of the definitive Batmans, and then that image, of course, absolutely famous picture of the Joker. So Brian Bolland there. So I picked 3 comic book artists. Let's stick that back in there. And then another couple of visual artists, which I sort of, I have a very limited palette. Like people don't drink wine, I also don't drink wine. My palette for art is very unsophisticated, but I love Modigliani. I love the elongated faces, because they all look like, let's find a good one. Look at those, some of those sculptures. They all look a bit like my wife, which is why I find them so beautiful. His muse, well, these are all topless, I can't show you these. Let's see if I can find a picture of Jeanne, his muse. There's some self-portraits. Madame Pompadour. I just love all this. I very much like. Let me find you some good pictures, one second. So that isn't, but these are, Modigliani's. Later one, not so elongated. That's beautiful. Look at that. Some Modigliani, and the last one I've got here to show you is David Hockney, who I also kind of love. This is a book that I bought 20 years ago, so he's been doing stuff since then, but I love that this there's a great essays on his early work and the constant references to Cliff Richard, who he was in love with, which show up throughout his very earliest works. He would refer to Cliff Richard as dear boy in his diaries, and which is abbreviated to DB, which is then turned into numbers. D is the 4th letter and B is the 2nd letter, so 4-2 often appears on in his early pictures, and it's all, when you look back now, I was a Cliff Richard fan, my sister was, and so I was by default, but knowing, when you look at the history of David Hockney, one of the greatest living artists, to see that his early work has those references to his boyhood crush is super fun. So anyway, David Hockney, that's the last thing I have for you. Let me just check that. And that's it. That's the D tag. And as usual, I mumbled along for way too long, but I did a tag. So thank you, Jim's book reading and stuff. And I'm certainly not going to tag anyone on the D tag when he's already up to S or T right now. So thank you. Done it. Post this. God bless.